Good morning, Bitcoin. We're live once again from the Baltic Honeybadger conference in Riga, Latvia. We're joined by Lawrence from Blockstream, who's been working on a lot of the new wallet ideas coming out of Blockstream. How's it going, Lawrence?
Great, thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's great to be here. We were just talking a little bit in the pre-interview about GreenAddress and how it works right now. I'd say the current system, if you make a change in the underlying part of the wallet, you said you had to make it 3 or 4 times in 3 different projects. What are you guys doing to streamline this and make it easier to make Bitcoin wallets?
Yeah, shall I hold the microphone? So when we started, there were many libraries around, ranging from Bitcoin J, Bitcoin JS, Bitcoin, and there's a ton more. That was sufficient to get started, but as we added new features and things like that, we discovered that the interfaces were different enough to make this complex. The feature set was different enough, but also the back sets. Excuse me. And so we wanted something that we could use across all our wallets. So that means Android, iOS, Windows, Mac, and Linux, and as well as our backend. And so
they keep adding more names to that list. We keep expanding Windows, Mac, Linux, Android. It's just so many different things. Exactly.
Well, we're glad that Windows Mobile is out of the picture.
one less to do. One less to do. Yes.
Exactly. And so we decided to build something on top of SKYPE 256K1. For the audience, that's a library that provides the crypto primitives that are used by Bitcoin wallets. And the idea was to build a library that not only could be used on mobiles and desktop, but also potentially on embedded or on the server-side backend and things like that. And so because of that, we wrote it in C. libsecp is also written in C. However, we did write bindings in different languages so that Java developers, Python developers, JavaScript developers can use this library as well. It's very generic. It's not GreenAddress specific. And we already use it on all our wallets. However, we're actually taking this one step further. We're building a library on top of this, which internally we call the GreenAddress development kit. And the idea is basically to have a full wallet without the GUI, without the graphical user interface, that provides a very high-level interface for wallet developers. It's good for us because it means we develop things once, and yeah, sure, you have to have the UX native on all the various, iOS and Android. It's a better user experience if you have things native. But the idea is that you don't have to have crypto experts, and it's not a library just for us. It's also a library for any service out there that wants to interface to our system without, having, crypto experts on the team necessarily.
So a designer could come along and just work on the front interface for the wallet. Then they could use your software in the background. Is it open source?
Yeah, so libwallet is completely open source. The thing I just mentioned, the GreenAddress development kit, will be open source soon. Our new apps for Android and iOS are coming in the next few weeks, and they will be based on this. And so the GDK, how I call it, will come out at the same time as the open source apps, the Android and iOS open source apps.
Great. So this should lead to many more different types of wallets, different interfaces and experiments, but the back end will all be the same. So the hard part, the heavy lifting, will be done in the back end, right?
Yeah, so the idea is to have one library that people can use everywhere, that is easy to review and to extend, and at the same time that it's vetted by the people that have the expertise. Not just us, but there's also other contributors from Bitcoin Core that have noticed this library and that they started helping and contributing to it.
And it does sound better than having everyone making their own back end, and then we're all taking risks with our money. Some developers calling Lightning an altcoin, all kinds of other problems. But working together, we could use this unified kit.
Yeah, so for example, C-Lining also had the need for some of the wallet primitives that we use in libwallet, so they built on top of libwallet directly.
So it'll work with Lightning as well as Bitcoin.
Yes, Lightning is not an altcoin. The idea is that Lightning is using libwallet. It's not the way around, but eventually libwallet will also have Lightning support.
Very interesting. And as you guys know, I'm a big fan of Rothbard, and I was reading Man, Economy, and State, and Rothbard was talking here about private coinage and the idea that entrepreneurs can mint gold and silver into unique coins that are then traded on the marketplace. And I had this idea that wallets are kind of private coinage in Bitcoin, because it is the user interface to manage your hodlings, to manage your satoshis. And now that you have created a way for entrepreneurs to much more easier create wallets, because they no longer have to take care of all the cryptography stuff, do you think that many more wallet developers will produce software pieces that allow you to manage your Bitcoin in a unique edge case?
I think so. At the same time, however, historically there has been a problem in terms of open source. A wallet really has to be open source. Otherwise, you're really trusting someone else to hold your keys. In general, not everyone will review it, but you know that some can, and you could potentially pay someone to do it on your behalf if you really want to. So, wallets have to be open source. At the same time, there's a real big problem in terms of monetization. So people need to think of, how to make money and make things sustainable in that sense. The open source low-level libraries can probably stay open source with no problem and be sustainable. However, there's a lot more that goes behind a wallet. There's a lot of work in terms of design, the user experience, keeping it up to date, releasing new versions that cope with fee changes or new features like RBF or child pays for parent. There's tons of things that are happening, and there will be more things that are happening that will happen that will require people to keep things up to date.
Now, I just had this idea right now, and I don't know if this is a usage, but could they use this kind of back-end software to build a wallet for maybe like a vending machine, like a Coke machine, or for another type of embedded device or something that we're not thinking of right now, like a airline seat back or something like that, where you might want a wallet, but your developers aren't really wallet developers. They're UI guys. They're great at that. Could they use this for other purposes and just like a phone wallet?
Yeah, so one of the reasons we wrote in C was that it was easier to access, say, from the Android Java JVM, as well as integrating with iOS. At the same time, what makes it useful with C is that you could use it on embedded software, on embedded hardware. So I played personally, weekend style on embedded hardware wallets. With this software on top of it, and you could easily build a Coke machine or a vending soda machine that takes either Bitcoin or Lightning using this software stack.
That sounds great, because I'm tired of tokens. I'm thinking arcade machines. Why should I be inserting a coin in the year 2018? I got money on my phone. I'll give you a quarter. Put up the QR code.
NFC or an NFC or something like that. Yeah, it could easily be built.
So there are, of course, many different niches that such a software like a open source wallet can provide. For example, the Wasabi wallet focuses a lot of privacy, the Electrum wallet more on programmability. So with GreenAddress, what is your focus? What niche do you want to serve?
Well, it's a very interesting question. From the beginning, my focus was a mix of everything, which is really hard. Some people even called it the Lawrence triangle, but I'm getting over myself there. So basically, you got usability, you got privacy, and you got security. And the more you try to make something secure, the less usable it is, and suddenly you're helping less people, because less people want to use a very complex and secure software. They don't even know how. But if you make it too usable and don't write down your mnemonic, forget about it, it's not important. Yeah. Just get your wallet online. Well, this is all nice when things go well, but then if you lose your phone and you didn't write down your seed, suddenly you have a problem. And so there's really some issue there. And privacy, it's similar. If you want total privacy, then often, unfortunately, it's the case that you have to spend a little bit more. Like you want to have your manual coin selection, you want to spend things separately, but by spending things separately, you're also, paying, let's say, twice the fees. Or in general, it's more costly to be more private. So I've always tried to keep a balance, and it's very hard. At the same time, I like to give advanced users the ability to do what they want. And so you have to strike a balance where, by default, you show that you're very minimalistic, but at the same time, somewhere you got to have an advanced button for geeks.
Exactly, and I like the GreenAddress wallet a lot. I use it pretty much every single day, and I use it also to onboard people. And it is a wallet that provides you a plethora of features, but it is not the most easy to use streamlined version. And you said that you are doing a update or a new version of the user interface, of the graphical interface. So could you maybe talk a bit more about that and what might be coming here?
Yeah, it's actually a lot more than just an update to the graphical user interface. We're redoing completely the user experience. We're rebranding in terms of logo and name. We're redoing the entire heart of the app using a library that sits on top of libwallet called GDK, or Green Development Kit. And the idea is to not only streamline development in terms of write once some features, and yes, sure, you have to do the UX on each platform you want to support, but at the same time, you minimize the amount of work in terms of the crypto expertise, and also you minimize or you maximize the amount of testing you get by just testing thing once. So in the coming weeks, we'll come out with a refreshed Android and iOS app, which will be much simpler to use, and I think with a great user experience.
That sounds great. And we seem to have a theme going this morning with open source, where we just talked to Jan from Slushpool and Brains OS, and he was talking about open sourcing the mining firmware. And now you're essentially talking about open sourcing the back end for the wallets. And I'm just seeing a lot of opportunities for collaboration and cooperation, and for Bitcoin companies and Bitcoin developers to work together to improve the ecosystem, better privacy, better interfaces, better security, all of these things. And it all starts with open source.
Yeah, I also overheard what they're doing, and I think it's great. It means that finally you can have a consolidated, interface to miners that should really improve the quality of the ecosystem.
And that they can change it and edit it and fix the problems they have, and also verify the code so the miners could trust the code that they're mining with. To do it any other way seems almost absurd. But again, when you're like 1.0 or 2.0, you're just starting out. Sometimes it's better to keep it closed source. Sometimes the code's very dirty or maybe even unsafe, and you want to, get by that. And then once we get by that, if we could switch to an open source model, if we could start improving it together, collaborating, I think it would be better for everybody.
Yeah, this sort of thing is great, not just for the users, but also for the hardware manufacturers. They want to sell hardware, and at the end of the day, if they can rely on an open source stack that provides all the features that users want with the transparency that the users want, it's good for them as well. They need to do less work. And I think something similar is also possibly going to happen with hardware wallets. You can see it already with the Trezor. It's the stack is open source, and there's already out there clones. I think people will still prefer the original just because the development is happening there and the trust is there. But ultimately, it's entirely possible that in the coming years, hardware will be more commoditized. And so we will see more hardware and more open source firmware for the hardware.
We already touched briefly on the Lightning Network, and maybe could you go a bit more in depth on how a wallet like the GreenAddress might be using Lightning Network?
Well, it's going to be used, I think, just like any other Lightning wallet. But there are things that potentially we could do that are a bit different from other wallets. So our design has always been with multi-sig, with the server helping you with other two-factor authentication, so improving your security, threshold limits, that sort of thing. But it could also help with the watchtower. So it could, the service could help, protecting you and streamline a few things.
I just had an acquisition idea. There's this open source wallet that's multi-sig called Mistos, and my friend's working on it with Blockstack, and it's really cool. You can have a multi-sig wallet where you can kick people in and out, and you have a little vote to do it. One of the problems I always found with Copay, which is also open source from BitPay, is that whenever we did Copay in the office at Purse, if someone joined the company or left the company, we had to recreate the multi-sig wallet, which is quite a pain when you're going around bothering programmers and interrupting them, and they have to sign it, and then every time you want to use it, they had to sign it. But with Mistos, you could actually have kind of an organizational structure, kicking people in and out. And, it's very, 1.0, and they're starting out, but maybe someday something like that, which it is open source, could be integrated into GreenAddress, allowing people kind of the power of multi-sig without the complexity of the management.
Yeah, so that's a very huge topic. In reality, I've been looking at generic multi-sig KOVN for quite a long time, and it's not just a matter of deciding who the parties are and creating the wallet. there's a problem with the identity, whether people are remote or local. Can you use the signal model where you scan a QR code to authenticate each other, or do you use some other mechanism, maybe web of trust with GPG? And it gets very complicated very, very quickly, and it's a huge amount of work to do something. And what I want in the space is something interoperable. So I can use GreenAddress, use Electrum, and you use Trezor, and another person use something else, or Core, whatever you want. And that, I would really like something like that. I don't believe today is possible to have a multi-signature wallet where you can kick people in and out, while the wallet exists. You have to transfer the funds every time if you want to have more people in the multi-sig or less people in the multi-sig. However, you could do something different where you have hardware enforcement. I don't know if this is what these guys are doing. Perhaps they have some hardware enforcement and they can choose, who's allowed, who's permissioned or not, without having to transfer the funds, which is an interesting concept.
It might be possible they transfer the funds in the background, but like you're saying, that would be another fee every time you're adding people in and out. And if the fees go up higher, it's going to be a larger fee. But I do know it's an online project and they're working on it, and it's open source. So it would definitely be something to check out. And I do think the idea of simple multi-sig that people can share is something we're not doing enough of in Bitcoin, possibly because the interface is difficult to use right now. So.
Well, thank you, Lawrence, for joining us. That was fantastic. I'm really looking forward to the next things coming here to the GreenAddress. Maybe just to finish this off, when is going to be the next release, and where can people find out more about it?
People will find more about this in a couple of weeks when we release them. We'll release both the GDK as well as the apps as open source. All our apps are already open source. But, we haven't published this yet because we're finishing it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.